In this section, we talk about what your success will depend on in mastering the art of parking, give you some general tips, and learn how to do a three-point turn. Many drivers cannot manage the process of parking because they are confused and do not know which way to turn the steering wheel. Therefore, on the screen, in front on the car, there will be shown an image of a steering wheel. The arrow indicates in which direction it should be turned, to the right, straight, or to the left. However, note a peculiarity. Let's rotate the steering wheel all the way to the right. Please note in what position the steering wheel has stopped. At first glance, it may seem that the wheel is turned, rather in the opposite direction, that is, to the left, and it may confuse you. To avoid this, remember this moment and be guided by the arrows. So let's look again. We shall turn the wheel to the left, put it in a straight ahead position, and now turn to the right. Now, let's count the number of revolutions that a steering wheel can make. Right now the wheel is turned all the way to the right. We shall rotate it in the opposite direction to the left as far as it will go. Let's count the revolutions. 1, 2, 3, 3.5. In order not to be confused, we will say that the wheel makes a total of 4 rounds, and we will remember that the last revolution is not complete. All cars are different, and in some cars, the steering wheel makes only 3 revolutions instead of 4. Whenever we talk about parking, it makes no difference how many rotations the steering wheel makes. Hereafter, we will consider an option where the wheel makes 4 revolutions. Your success in mastering the art of parking will depend largely on 2 factors: how fast you are traveling and how fast you turn the steering wheel. In an ideal scenario, the car moves slowly and the wheel turns quickly. In that case, the car requires minimum space to maneuver and it turns at a wider angle. As a result, you will be able to park even in a narrow parking space. However, some drivers do quite the opposite. It is a common mistake. Let us imagine that we are going fast, but we are turning the wheel slowly. As a result, our car manages to go far, but turns little. This driving style is absolutely not suitable for parking. The parking space is too small for such maneuvers. Let's see how this works in practice. We need to park in this parking space in a reverse motion. The driver of this car is making a mistake, which we have just discussed. His car is moving too fast, while he is turning the wheel slowly. As a result, the car cannot make such a sharp turn, and the parking fails on the first try. Let's see how to do it right. The driver of this car, in contrast, is moving slowly while turning the steering wheel rather quickly. To maneuver, the vehicle requires a minimum space, and the driver parks the car on the first try. In the process of parking, you often have to turn the wheel as far as it will go in one direction or the other, especially if you are entering a narrow parking spot where there is little free space. Sometimes beginners are lazy and do not want to turn the wheel all the way. Let's see why this is wrong. car is in a wrong position and we need to put it parallel to the curb. The driver starts to move, turns the steering wheel in the right direction, but makes only 2 1/2 rotations, and then he stops turning the steering wheel for some unknown reason. Remember that to put the steering wheel straight, you need to make 2 revolutions. In our case, the driver has made 2 1/2 rotations of the steering wheel, and, note the location of the wheels, our car is going almost straight ahead. Let's see how much space we need to align the vehicle with the curb. So, that is the result. Now let's return the vehicle to its original position, but this time we turn the steering wheel to the right until it stops. We make 4 revolutions, and the result is that we needed 2 times less space. In real life, some other car would be parked in front of yours, and room for maneuvering would be limited. That's why it is right to rotate the steering wheel as far as it goes. Question: let's look at this driver. He is trying to parallel park, but is having trouble doing it. He continues to make the same mistake, which is typical of many young and inexperienced drivers. What do you think is wrong? Pay special attention to the trajectory along which the car is moving. This driver's mistake is that he is not turning the steering wheel. He goes back and forth, but the trajectory of his car does not change. This could go on forever, but the driver still won't be able to drive deeper into the space. If you really want to steer a car, do not forget turning the steering wheel. Try to avoid this annoying mistake. Next, we discuss an exercise that you might meet on the driving test. It's called a 3-point turn. We need to make a U-turn on a relatively narrow street with 3 maneuvers. This exercise is performed on an empty road where we are not getting in the way of other people. The principle of this exercise is very simple. In order not to go back and forth along the same trajectory, it is necessary to turn the wheel every time you start to move in the opposite direction. For example, I go forward and the steering wheel is turned to the left. Then I start to move in reverse. If I don't want to return to the same point where I was, I need to turn the steering wheel. Now I'm going in reverse and the steering wheel is turned to the right. Then I go in the opposite direction, forward, and so I have to turn the steering wheel, and so on. Every time that I change direction of motion, I need to turn the steering wheel. The main thing is not to repeat the mistake of the driver you just saw. The same principle can be used in different situations. For example, if you are unable to drive into a parking space on the first try, you have to change the direction of movement. You are going in reverse and now you go forward, so you have to turn the steering wheel. Now, when you have moved forward for a sufficient distance and start moving backwards, then and there you should be turning the steering wheel. So let's go back to the 3-point turn. Let's start with the initial position. The street is narrow, and we have to use the available space to the maximum and move closer to the curb. First, we need to turn the steering wheel all the way to the left and drive ahead as far as possible. Then we have to turn the steering wheel all the way to the right and move in reverse as far as possible. Next, you turn the steering wheel to the left again and finish the maneuver. In carrying out this exercise, it is important to choose the adequate starting position. If you stopped initially far away from the curb, you will need 4 or 5 maneuvers to make a turn. Among other issues, do not forget, first of all, that we are moving slowly, and secondly, we turn the steering wheel every time as far as it goes. Otherwise, we cannot manage the turn in 3 maneuvers. Now let us talk about safety during the exercise. One of the evaluation criteria of the driving test is the ability to look around and assess the situation correctly. Stop on the right side of the road near the curb and have a look around before starting the first maneuver. Make sure that neither in the front nor the back is anyone who may be blocked by your actions, including pedestrians. Before making the next maneuver, look around carefully and make sure that the road is empty and open all around. Do not forget to make sure that there is no oncoming traffic, not only from the front, but also from the back. By itself, the 3-point turn is a relatively simple exercise, but you have to be careful and sense the external dimensions of your car. Although you can understand the exercise in theory, you can learn to feel your car only in practice. Before we get to the main part of our course, we need to discuss what to avoid when parking. Do not turn the steering wheel while the vehicle is standing still. It is called dry steering. You need to start moving, and only then you can turn the steering wheel. Why is it so? The fact is that the surface of the road is very rough and works as a rasp file. So if you turn the steering wheel while you are at a stop, your tires get damaged and their service life is markedly reduced. If you turn the steering wheel while in motion, the wear on the tires is less and more even. Do not put the car in reverse gear when the car is moving. First, you need to stop completely and only then put it in reverse. Without going into details, let us say that the reverse gear is the only gear that you should not shift into while the car is moving. Otherwise, you can damage the gearbox. We'll show you what happens if you put the car in reverse gear while in motion. Do you hear that sound? Do not repeat this on your car.